The main consequence of the Magna Carta was improved relations between John and the barons. How far do you agree? Explain your answer. You may use the following in your answer. The First Barons' War of 1215 to 17. Runnymede. You must also use information of your own. 16 marks. You can find out more about how to answer this question in our overview video, but we do know that 10 of those marks are awarded for AO2, which is your analysis and evaluation of a second-order historical concept. What makes this question more challenging than a lot of the others on the paper is that you need to identify what that second-order concept is. For this question, it will be significance. So the question says that the most significant consequence of the Magna Carta was the improved relations. So you need to decide, do you agree with that or do you disagree? And if you disagree, is there a factor that was more significant? To score highly on this question, you need to come to your own judgment and be able to explain why you think what you do. That brings us on to AO1, which is how you can get the next 6 marks. This is for your knowledge and understanding of the period. So this is where you bring in your own knowledge to support what you're trying to say. Again, our overview video explains all of this in much more detail, but these are the bottom 2 bands for this question. Generally speaking, to score in these 2 bands, you might have answered the question, but maybe your points were a little bit general. To develop them more, you would need to bring in more evidence and link that evidence back to the question, which is why the point, evidence, explain structure is so useful for these longer questions. Your answer might be a little bit difficult to follow, so maybe the examiner's not quite sure what you're arguing. That's why it's important to have a clear structure. Here are the top 2 bands for this question. To be scoring at the top 2 bands, you need to have identified the second order concept and made a judgment based on it. It should be really queuing, and you've developed that argument by bringing in evidence from your own knowledge, and you've got a really clear, organised structure. As long as the points you make to explain your answer are relevant to the question and correct, the examiner will accept them. But here are some examples of points that you could have made. That point, evidence, explain structure comes into effect here. So you could make the point that the Magna Carta brought the rebellion of 1215 to an end. You could then use the evidence that the rebels, who were led by Robert Fitzwalter, took control of London in 1214. You can then explain that obliged John to agree to the Magna Carta. So that explanation links what you've said back to the question and shows a really nicely developed point, which has analysed the second order historical concept. It's that sort of structure which can help you to score in the higher bands. Have a read through the rest of the points and see if there's anything else that you could have added to your answer.